In 1931, a woman began talking to corn cells. And the unbelievable part? They started talking back. The scientific world called her crazy. Colleagues laughed at her theories. She was silenced, ignored, and forgotten. But 30 years later, the world realized she was right. And they gave her science's highest honor, the Nobel Prize. This is the story of Barbara McClintock, the woman who discovered that life itself is intelligent. A mind so far ahead of her time, even science couldn't understand her. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because on this channel, we bring you the forgotten stories of genius, rebellion, and human brilliance the world tried to bury. All right, let's begin. The year is 1931. Barbara McClintock is in her early 30s, working in a quiet lab, surrounded by stalks of maize, corn plants. While most scientists are racing to unlock the secrets of life using machines, formulas, and rigid theories, Barbara is simply listening. She believed that every living thing had a kind of inner intelligence, and she wanted to understand how it spoke. To everyone else, corn was simple, just a crop, predictable, ordinary. But Barbara noticed something strange. Each kernel on the cob seemed to have its own story. Their color patterns didn't follow the usual genetic rules. They were communicating. It was as if the corn itself was talking back through its DNA. And Barbara listened. What she found would change science forever. Barbara discovered that genes could move. They weren't fixed, unchanging pieces of code. They could jump around the genome, switching other genes on or off, helping organisms adapt to their surroundings, helping life itself survive. She called them transposable elements, but today we know them as jumping genes. This discovery shattered the foundation of genetics, because if genes could move, then DNA wasn't a static blueprint. It was a living conversation between life and its environment. Cells weren't mechanical. They were aware. They were intelligent. But when Barbara presented her findings in 1951, the world wasn't ready to hear it. When she stood before a room of scientists to explain her discovery, they stared in silence. Then came the laughter. A senior scientist dismissed her instantly. Genes are stable. They don't move. Barbara simply replied, "I'm only describing what the corn told me." They laughed harder. From that day on, she was blacklisted. Her funding disappeared. No one invited her to speak again. For decades, Barbara McClintock lived in scientific exile. No students, no colleagues, no recognition. Just her in the cornfields of Cold Spring Harbor. But she didn't stop. Barbara once said, "If you know you are right, you do not care." In that silence, she kept working, not to prove them wrong, but to understand life more deeply. She called it a feeling for the organism. She didn't just study cells. She felt them intuitively, emotionally, almost spiritually. It was empathy turned into science. A connection so deep that she could sense what the cells were trying to do. Even before her microscope showed it, her science wasn't about control. It was about listening. She believed life was constantly adapting, constantly speaking, constantly responding to its world. And she listened until the world finally began to listen too. By the 1970s, molecular biology had advanced. Scientists began discovering the same jumping genes in bacteria, viruses, and even humans. The impossible had become undeniable. Barbara McClintock was right all along. In 1983, at age 81, she stood on the stage in Stockholm to receive the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. The first woman in history to ever win it solo. No co-authors. No shared glory, just her and the corn that no one else believed in. Even with the Nobel Prize, few truly grasped the depth of what she found. Because what Barbara discovered wasn't just about genes. It was about consciousness. If life can rewrite its own code to survive, then life isn't mechanical. It's intelligent. Every cell in your body is not blindly following orders. It's adapting. It's learning. It's aware. Barbara saw that long before anyone else. Barbara McClintock passed away in 1992, quietly, without fame or fanfare. But her message is more relevant now than ever. Respect life. Listen deeply. Trust the intelligence inside you. Because the real revolution isn't out there in some laboratory. It's happening inside every living cell, inside you. Barbara McClintock didn't conquer nature. She heard it speak, and through her, life finally told its story.